Thursday, December 9th, 2021, and this is a general meeting of the Intermediate District 287 School Board. My name is Regina Neville. This meeting is being live streamed on the District 287 YouTube channel. It is also being recorded, and the link to the recording will be posted on the 287 website in the school board section. The public is invited to share their thoughts and comments with the board. Please complete the request form that is available on the 287 website in the school board section. At this time, I'd like to invite board member Michelle Coons to read the mission for 287.
Thank you, Chair Neville. The mission of Intermediate District 287 is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students.
Thank you. We'll have board member introductions. Please state your name and the district you represent. And Heidi, could you begin, please?
Hi, I'm Heidi Marty with West Tonka Public Schools.
And Casey, proudly representing St. Louis Park.
Hi, Ruthie Dallas representing Brooklyn Center Community Schools.
Crystal Brackey from Richfield Public Schools.
Regina Neville with Edina Public Schools.
Hello, Andrea Keene from Wayzata Public Schools.
Shannon Andreessen, representing Hopkins Public Schools.
Michelle Coons, representing Orono Public Schools.
Jackie Mosqueda Jones, representing Osseo Area Schools.
Thank you. I'd also like to welcome all staff who are here with us this evening, both in person and everyone joining us virtually. I just want to begin with an announcement that last night at a special meeting of the board made the decision to enter into contract negotiations for the position of superintendent with Marcy Dowd, who is the current deputy chief of schools for St. Paul Public Schools. So we'll begin that next step in the process of the superintendent transition. I'm going to walk through this evening's agenda. Oh, before I do that, I also need to thank everybody. I mean, I want the staff who supported this search. It's been extensive work. Really grateful to Juanina Mgini, grateful to Radius Guess, Ann Becker, Rachel Hicks, and Amanda Ochterkirk for many, many hours of detailed preparation and coordination to make this possible. I'm grateful to School Exec Connect for their role in the search process. I'm grateful to everyone who applied, but I specifically want to acknowledge Dr. Elizabeth Lodge Rogers, Tanya Allen, and Ben McGrath. This decision was difficult, as anyone who's watched, who will maybe watch our board meeting. It was difficult, very thoughtful, and I'm grateful to the board for carrying the weight of the decision. We are really fortunate for the commitment of particularly our internal candidates, for the depth of expertise, and for their commitment that made this decision really, really hard. So thank you. I'm going to walk through this evening's agenda. We'll have approval of the general consent agenda, followed by share the success with above and beyond recognition for care and treatment and the district service center. Our business services and labor relations report includes a financial report on the unaudited finances for fiscal year 21, and also human resources report with a closed session for discussion of negotiations with the unaffiliated employment guides. And then we'll close with just board business and updates. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I move that we accept the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ruthie Dallas. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Juanine, is there anyone who would like to address the board this evening?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we'll move on with approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone would like removed for separate consideration? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
I so move.
Moved by Andrea Keene. Is there a second? Seconded by Heidi Marty. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we're Going to move on to share the success and recognition, beginning with care and treatment. And Superintendent Lewandowski, if you could please give us an introduction.
Of course. And, good evening, board members. I'm excited to have two Above and Beyond winners here this evening. And really grateful that we can welcome them in person tonight. And Ms. Tay is here from Care and Treatment. But before we give her a chance to speak, I wonder if Principal Klutman would like to do a short introduction.
Oh, yes, thank you, Ms. Sandy Lewandowski. It is my great honor to introduce all of you to Ms. Tay. She goes above and beyond every day, connecting with students that are in very vulnerable positions in our Prairie Care Edina location, and immediately makes relationships with students, and is just so good at connecting with staff as well as students. She dives deep into our equity work and is a leader in creating curriculum to help support students' ability to communicate and talk about race in the classroom openly and honestly. She is above and beyond the best team member that anybody could ever ask for. She creates a positive culture in the building for all staff and has great great relationships with our partners as well. So thank you, Ms. Tay. I can't think of anybody better than you to have earned this award. You work really hard every day and are dedicated to positive student outcomes. Thank you. And thank you, board, for welcoming us to tonight.
Thank you for being here. Ms. Tay, is there anything that you would like to share?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just honored to receive this award. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I've had with District 287 to grow not only as a teacher, but as a person. I was really lucky to be part of the care and treatment team and to start at the county homeschool. Program has really been a pillar in to find my love to fight for social justice and inequity in education. So I feel like that was just like my jump start to all of this. And honestly, over the years, I've come across multiple care and treatment programs and multiple sites across the district. And I feel like all of our staff deserve this award. So I just want to honor everybody else that's part of my programs and part of District 287. And I think all of our staff deserve the award. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or round of applause? Big applause. Thank you.
Ms. Tate, thank you so much for being here, and you just represent our grow your own, if you will, very, very well. So we're so proud of you and the work that you've done, and it's special to be able to congratulate you here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, board, and thank you, Sandy.
You bet.
Thanks.
And secondly, we have Ms. Tanya Allen here tonight, and maybe you would be willing to introduce our second Above and Beyond winner, Lori Nystrom.
Yes, thank you, Sandy. So our second award winner, Lori Nystrom, is someone who is administrative support for not only the mental health and family engagement departments, but she also is part of health and safety around when we think about it, the importance of employee well-being and our strategic priority about being trauma made sure that every training that we envision having, that everything logistically speaking is taken care of. And I think more important than that, when we think about COVID, Lori really has been here that our staff were safe. And I think that there's nothing more important than during this time than having one who really has taken care and concern about all of the details to make sure everything is taken care of. So Lori Nystrom is our next Above and Beyond person.
Well, congratulations, Lori. And is there anything that you can please share?
Well, I'm honored also to receive this award, and it was actually a surprise to me. So it's nice to be noticed. You know, you run around the DSC doing all this stuff and don't think anyone recognizes it, but so it was a big surprise. It was a nice surprise. So I do appreciate it, and thank you, Sandy, and everyone that voted me in. And also, I work with a lot of great staff at the District Service Center, and it's just lots of hardworking people. So it's nice to have the DSC be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Big round of applause. Thank you. Congratulations, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Anything else, Andy? On this okay, well, we're going to move on to our Business Services and Labor Relations report. It is audit season, and I want to just thank May Hawkins and Gloria Wilder and all the members of your team for extraordinary work consistently. It's not just this year, it is consistent year after year through many different types of economic conditions. So thanks for your work. I want to welcome Gloria. You're introducing our unaudited report, correct?
Yes,
Glad
correct.
to have you here.
Thank you, Chair Neville and the school board for having me. Myself, as well as May Hawkins, will both be introducing the unaudited financial report for 2020-21. And Winnie has been good enough to share the presentation. So we will go to the next slide, Winnie. So today's learning intention, we will be reviewing the 2021 financial results with the actual results. We will also be reviewing the unassigned general fund areas, interfund transfers, general assigned fund balance areas, general restricted fund balance areas, do a review of the overall general fund budget to actual, review some COVID-19 related funding, non-major funds, and do a general recap and share our audit results. So next slide. So in your packet tonight, you have probably a more legible version, hopefully, of this worksheet. This is our financial numbers, kind of in a summary form that we present to you tonight. Just wanted to talk about this worksheet a little bit, and then I'm going to kind of break it out in other slides into the different areas. But the first column you'll notice, or actually it's the second column, you'll notice that we began with the beginning fund balance as of July 1, 2020. We show the revenues and expenditures, both what was budgeted during revised budget time, as well as the actual ending year revenue and expenditures. We also show you the effect on the fund balance. So we show you what the actual fund balance is and what the change in the fund balance is. And then you'll see on the green highlighted column that there is proposed transfers, and I am going to break those down a little bit more for you on another slide. And then we have the adjusted fund balance that we're asking to approve tonight. So next slide. So this area I'm going to go over is, the first area is the unassigned general fund. And in this area, you might be familiar in your district seeing it as a total general fund. In our area, we like to, in 287, we like to break it down into 4 program areas: district-wide admin and operations, ALC, academic education, career and technical education, and special ed. So the first area, district-wide admin and operations, you'll see that the revenues and expenditures are down from the revised budget, and this is mainly due to grants and repair budgets that did not get spent fully. And you'll notice in the fund balance change column that we had a reduction in this area of 582,153. And we are doing some proposed fund balance transfers that we'll show on the next slide for an adjusted fund balance of $422,046. So the next program area is the ALC and academic area. In this area, you can see that revenues and expenditures are down from budget, mainly due to the decline in the Northern Star online program. You can see in the fund balance change column, we did change the fund balance was reduced by $2,197,477. We are proposing a transfer of $1.5 million into that fund so that we can balance out that fund at a zero fund balance. The next area is career and technical education. So that's our pathways programs at HTC. The revenues and expenditures did come in very close to budget. These programs did realize a decline in enrollment also in 2021, but we did project that in the revised budget, so they did come in close to budget. They did reduce their fund balance by $299,441, but fortunately they had a strong fund balance going into the year, so they're still ending with $413,983. So the last area is special education, and you can see that the expenditures in this area did come below budget, and this was due to cost containment measures when realizing with the decline in enrollment. So they, you can see they had a net gain in fund balance, and we are proposing transfers out of this fund so that they will end up in an adjusted fund balance of $6,615,512. So going on to the next slide. I broke down the column for the proposed transfers, because all you see is a total on that sheet. So I figured you might want to know what they all include. So the first area that is included is just a small transfer for flex accounting. And this was accounting change in 1920. It went from non-major fund to an assigned area, but then it really gets reported in a liability account. So now it's moving to unassigned. So it's just kind of figuring out where to change it when the accounting standards changed and we couldn't keep it in non-major funds anymore. So we're just closing out that 1,600. The next category you'll see is transfers from other funds, and you'll see that there's $249,691 going into district-wide admin and operations and coming out of special ed. And we're making that move to account for commitments in 2021-22 year. The next two entries you'll see are subsequent year budget entries. And these are accounting entries that we do need to make. So GASB standards require you to reserve funds if in your budget you are projecting a deficit between your revenue and expenditures. So that's what we're doing here in our original budget that came to the board for FY 21-22. We projected a deficit in admin and operations and ALC and academics. So that is coming out of the unassigned area and moving to an assigned area so that it's reserved for that purpose. But then you'll notice the next line says prior year subsequent budget. So we did the same thing at the end of FY20 when we projected a deficit with our original budget in 2021. So that money moves back into the unassigned area as the other money goes out. So it's kind of a counting entry between the 2 years. And then the next category is non-expendable. And this actually is a separate category in itself. It's a separate fund balance. It's not considered assigned. It's a separate fund balance that we're required to carry. The non-expendable expenditures are prepaid expense. So every year, because we are in an accrual counting method, we have expense for that we have to pay in like the spring of the year, but it doesn't really happen until the next year, fiscal year, when our fiscal year changes. So we prepay it and have to reserve that money to recognize the expense in the following year. So that's what the non-expendable is about. And like subsequent year budget, we have to, we move in the current ones that we're reserving for 2022 and move back prior. So we had more prepays last year than are going out this year, so it ends up a net positive effect. And then we have the property account that was moving out of district-wide admin and operations into an assigned area. And that was for projects that for various reasons didn't get completed in 2021 and will be completed in 2022. So it's just reserving those funds. And then we have the tuition adjustment reserve. So you can see that we are moving in to the ALC academic area, the 1,588,390. And because we didn't draw that fund down completely, we are moving funds back in from special ed. So you see a 700,000 going out there. And then the last area is an assigned area that we move money from unassigned to assigned for strategic priorities. And we're moving out that 500,000 from special ed. So that's a recap of the transfers. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the assigned area of fund balance. So the first area was unassigned, and now we're going into assigned. So these are areas where the district has chosen to track separately, separate fund balances for specific purposes that can roll over from one year to the other. And you can see the list of items there. Just highlighting the COVID-19 expenditures. That's some funds that we set aside in last year for this year because we knew that we would have additional expenditures related to COVID-19. And these funds are used to cover expenditures that will not be fully covered by the grants, so the federal funding. So we plan to use these funds going forward in 2020, 21, 22, and probably beyond this current year. And then we have the strategic priorities that we talked about, that transfer going in. And this is a specific area the district has chosen to reserve so that we can continue our strategic priorities in mental health, family engagement, equity, inclusion. And then we have the transfer from tuition adjustment reserve. Like I said, on the recap on the other page, went out to Fund 12, but in from special ed. So we'll go to the next slide. And this is kind of the recap of the net transfers going into the assigned area from the unassigned. So property count, subsequent year budget, the net was, effect of the 2 years was reducing that fund balance area by 160,000, 822. Adding the strategic priorities, taking out that flex account, and then the tuition adjustment reserve, the net amount going into there, or actually coming out of there, I should say. So the next slide, general restricted areas. So these are areas that are restricted by state statute. So they are required to have a separate fund balance and tracked separately. So you can see there, the revenues are a little bit easier to forecast, and we did pretty well there. The one exception that's a little bit harder to forecast is medical assistance. That medical assistant revenue relies on live encounters with our students, and during a pandemic, it's a little hard to predict how many live encounters we'll have. So we did a little better than we thought in the revenue, but it was 1.1 million lower than prior year. And then safe schools is another area I just wanted to touch on. We did increase that fund balance. Part of that increase will be used for purchasing radios for 3 of our buildings in FY22. We needed a big radio replacement effort. So that was planned out of safe schools. So in general fund summary.
Next slide, please. Linda.
Oh, sorry. So in summary, in the general fund, our revenues were below budget by 1.07%. Our expenditures 4.54% lower than budget. Very difficult year. As you're all well aware, I'm sure in your own districts, a difficult year to project how things will end up with the pandemic. So we are happy with that percentage. And I think that one other thing I wanted to kind of mention, and I meant to mention on the other slide with the transfer into ALC academic area for the tuition reserve, that's one area we've kind of carried on our books for unexpected changes. And, that was needed this year. But I have to say, I think John Voss would be very upset with me if I didn't mention, it was very unusual for the Northern Star online program this past year, of course. And in other years, they would have a fund balance, but they were used to help out the ALC programs. So very unique to this pandemic year. So that is in general, the general fund. And then I'm going to turn it over to May, who is going to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and non-major funds.
Thank you, Gloria. Whoops.
I'm just going to slide that over.
Wow, that was loud. Sorry, everyone. Next slide, please, Juanine. So we're going to do a brief overview now of the revenues and expenditures related to COVID-19 that occurred during the 2021 school year. So this is just during that school year. There were several federal grants, as we've talked about before, each of them with their own restrictions and application processes. This table provides on the far left the funding source, in the middle the amount, and then on the right what did it fund? What did we buy? What were the funds used for? As I've previously done many reports on the federal funding items, I'm just going to talk about a few of the items on this table that we haven't talked about before. So if you look at the third item down, is Coronavirus Relief Funds childcare. So that's a topic or a grant we haven't really talked about before. We did receive $23,000 for providing childcare. And the fifth item down is funding for our food services that we receive for providing all free meals to all students throughout the school year. And that totaled $291,638. In comparing that to prior years that the food service program received in 2019-20, they received $229,000. And pre-pandemic, we received $303,000 in federal funds. The eighth item down is funding that the district received related to the additional staff hours we had to put in related to the PEBT cards. And the fact that the way it was chosen to do PEBT cards is that school districts had to provide that data to the, and then we chose to allocate our cards. And then the ninth item down is the funds that we received through our fiscal host member districts. So our ALCs are all under fiscal host agreements with 4 of our member districts. And so the federal funds for those students flowed through to that member district. And then it flowed back to us. And we used all of those funds to purchase Chromebooks and hotspots and internet access for our ALC students. And then the last item is that the district did actually use some of that COVID-19 fund balance that Gloria just talked about. At the end of FY20, right, we had the foresight to set an assigned fund balance of $500,000 to cover COVID-related costs of the pandemic that were not covered by a grant. And we used $42,712 of that. So all totaled, the district spent $921,625 in COVID-19 related items last school year. In addition to that, we did receive numerous donations of PPE and hand sanitizer from the state, the county, and private companies, and 100 Chromebooks from the county. So, next slide, please. As we move down that 2020 unaudited spreadsheet, we come to the section that's called non-major funds. These are legally separate funds outside of the general fund. Some highlights of these funds. So we, as you can see there, we budgeted really well for these funds. So our revenues came in 0.59% lower than budget, and our expenses came in 0.16% lower than budget. Some highlights are the food service program, kind of as we talked about, the number of students served fluctuated greatly as the learning model changed, right? So in the construction funds, we did close our construction fund by completing the HVAC at the Ann Bremer Education Center. That construction project was completed in the fall of 2020. And then in the internal service funds, which are the district's self-insurance funds for health and dental, expenditures ended the year close to the budgeted amounts, representing a $1.5 million increase from the previous year. That increase was anticipated as the closing of clinics in the spring of 2020 meant that there was a delay, right, and a backlog of service that we knew our staff were going to access once clinics opened again. Next slide, please. At the November 18th school board meeting, the board approved a transfer from the district-wide administration and operations portion of the general fund to the food services fund of $378,877. Due to the continually changing nature of the 2021 school year, the revised budget revenue for food service was calculated using a very conservative approach, as the certainty of returning to full-time in-person school was unknown. Due to both reductions in cost and higher federal funding, the transfer came in at $240,873 under budget and only $53,985 more than the transfer for last school year. Next slide, please. As you may recall, when I presented the revised budget in February of 2021, I spoke about how one of the main reasons for fund balances is to protect the district from rainy days or unexpected events. The revised budget that was approved last February included utilizing $5.4 million in general fund balances. I am happy to report that thanks to the dedication of all district leaders, expenditures were reduced to the extent possible, and we ended the year only using $2.3 million in general fund balance. Hang on. The general fund unassigned fund balances decreased by $947,391, and the general fund assigned fund balances decreased by $1,339,570. The general fund restricted fund balances remained stable. For the funds outside of the general fund, a reminder to the board that the debt service fund balance will continue to grow, and these funds are placed each year in an interest-bearing sinking fund to pay the North Education Center Quality School construction bonds back in one payment of $29,790,000 in 2029. So, and then the health insurance reserve also increased. The insurance committee took this into consideration when they presented the rates to the school board back in October, and the rates were set below the medical trend %, knowing that there was 12 months of claims in the reserves. Next slide, please. Like all areas of the district, the finance department had to reinvent itself during the pandemic. Researching and putting in place tools to assist our customers in being able to fulfill the statutory requirements related to school procurement and finances, regardless of whether they were working, where they were working from, by moving everything to digital processes, yet still maintaining the documentation that's required. This year's audit was done 100% remotely. All content was uploaded to a secure portal. Due to the increase in federal funding, the district also was over the $750,000 threshold, and so a federal single audit was required, increasing the scope and complexity of the audit. Also during this school year and audit, the department experienced 2 retirements and 1 resignation, resulting in a total reorganization of duties related to the cutting of the purchasing manager position and a delay in filling the special ed accountant position. As we have already discussed, the department also took on the administration of several new grants. In spite of all of these challenges, this year's audit, again, is a clean audit report with no findings. Next slide, please. It takes knowledgeable leadership, great procedures and processes, and daily diligence to accomplish an audit with no findings. A huge thanks to our dedicated finance team. Please sign the poster that's going around, and we will post the board's thank you in the finance department area for the entire team to see. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time and attention. Gloria and I have shared a lot of information, and we open the floor for questions at this time.
First up, I want to give you a round of applause. One of the comments I want to start with is it is the opportunity of the board chair to meet with the auditor annually. And one of the questions they always ask is about our confidence as a board in the information that's being presented. And I can unequivocally say every single time we have complete confidence and we're grateful. So that what you've presented obviously demonstrates a lot of work, and it's consistent. It shows in the systems that you've put in place and the forecasting. I think my favorite slide was the one that showed 0.14 variance or maybe 0.16. That's really impressive. So thank you. Questions and comments? Anne?
Just a very specific one on the COVID-19 set aside. There was it was like 500,000, and then 40 something was used last year. what will happen to the rest? Is it because we don't have as much coming in for COVID-19, it'll be used this year, or is that going to have to get moved back to general fund at some point?
No, so it will stay in an assigned fund balance until we know that the pandemic is past. As we are seeing declining federal grants for each year going forward.
You
Right?
think that
So
it'll
there'll
get-
be more expenses not covered by federal grants where we're going to need that fund balance.
Do you think the scale even this year will be a lot more than last year?
I would say yes.
Well, then I'm glad we have it.
Thanks. Crystal?
Two things. One, and they're both just sort of thoughts in response to super clear, super helpful information. One is just hearing the stress over the last couple of weeks from staff members about the lower enrollment. And so just wanting to appreciate the work that you all do to manage the revenue and expenditure dance, for lack of a better term, and how difficult it is. And these are really good results, given the really challenging circumstances that we have all been in. But just like wanted you to know that we're feeling that and we're hearing that with you. And then the second thing is just wanting to voice my total frustration at seeing again how intermediate districts are not being prioritized in COVID federal funding allotment, and just really being struck by the comparison by what this district is receiving, and how high our needs are in comparison to what my home district receives. And really just wanting and hoping and being willing to do whatever I think collectively we can do to try to change that in future rounds, because it's deeply disappointing and I think it's deeply inequitable.
Well said. Thank you. Sandy?
Just in response, Crystal, just yesterday I sent yet another communication to state leaders, and this one to Governor Walz. And one of the three items was again pointing out the disparities in federal funding, along with the grave concerns about education bearing the weight of increased mental health issues that oftentimes end up with schools not only costing more, but injuries incurred to our staff. And I'll continue that.
Thank you.
I just had a clarifying question around the North Star. I don't know if it's budget versus actual, right? So it was mentioned in the presentation that revenues were down with that because of enrollment. But then you qualified at the end saying it had something to do with those funds actually went to different programs. So could you clarify?
Well, I was just highlighting Northern Star. Northern Star online program has been a very strong program for us for years. The ALC area and the Northern Star online are in that one category of ALC and academic area. So the revenues for the Northern Star online program in other years have come in over their expenditures. So they if they were in a category by themselves, they would have had a reserve built up, but we've used that to sort of supplement our ALC programs as well. So that's why it is, with the pandemic hitting them so hard, was kind of a unique year.
Okay, so we project or think that enrollment will go back up now that fewer, I guess, schools, buildings, sites are offering online learning?
We don't know that they are making cost containment moves, because we don't know that it'll call back to pre-pandemic, but we do know it's increasing. This year so far, they have seen an increase, and I'm sorry, I'm not the enrollment expert, but I believe it's about 25% increase over prior year as where it's sitting right now.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Sandy?
I just want to make sure if there's no more, go
I
ahead.
just have just one more
Oh,
question.
please.
So I know we have a lot of discussion in Hopkins about our percentage of our unassigned fund balance to our budget. And I know that you listed off that it's at 8.62%. Does District 287 at all have a policy about what we think is a healthy fund balance percentage, and is that number kind of in the sweet spot, getting low? If you could-
Yes, we do have a policy, and our policy says at least 6 to 8%.
Okay.
Of course, me and I as finance people, the more the better, but
Yes.
but that's a reasonable policy, and we are still above that policy.
Great, thank you.
I'll add on to that, as I've shared before, that, 8% is 1 month worth of expenditures.
Just for context.
Just for context.
But we're happy and grateful for it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add my gratitude to the finance team, Team Finance, I think maybe we'll call them now. And you will hear from the auditor in January, but one thing he said this morning that wasn't said is that the no findings this year is specifically and especially significant. He's not seeing that in every district by any means. And he must have said that about 3 times this morning. And so having no findings and having a single audit because of the federal money is especially important this year. And I just want to thank the team for getting us through this very challenging year with that kind of outcome. Nice job.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, well, we'll look forward to meeting Jim in January, welcoming him back. But thank you, and please again extend the gratitude to all of your team. Job well done. All right, we do need to accept this. This is an action item, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So is there a motion to approve the unaudited financial report for fiscal year 21 as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ann Casey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Andrea Keen. All those in favor of approving the unaudited financial report for fiscal year 21, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Nay.
I do want to add one note in case anybody's wondering, why do you bring us an unaudited financial report and then Jim brings us the audited financial report? The reason for that is that we have to submit the financial report by the end of December to lots of governmental agencies. And we don't want to submit it out into the public without the board knowing what the numbers are.
It's a good reason. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we will move on to the Human Resources Report, item 8.3.1. And I'd like to welcome Michelle Axel. We are. Any comments before we go into closed, or we're just going to go into closed, which is fine?
I apologize, I don't, thank you.
Nope, that's okay.
And board members, prepared to go into close to discuss the guide for administrators and unaffiliated employees.
Thank you, Juanine.
Under 8.3.1, you need the motion.
8.3.1, oh, the motion to move into closed. Yes, thank you. So I move that we go into closed session according to Minnesota Statute 13D.03, that the school board may hold a closed meeting to consider a strategy for labor negotiations. During our closed meeting, Michelle Axel, Director of Human Resources, will present the proposed 2021-2023 employment guides for administrators and unaffiliated employees for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Coons. All those in favor of moving into closed session as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we are in closed session. We can take a stand-up break. I don't know if anybody needs a full break. Less than an hour. Standing up is always good.
Maybe I should because I can't see the other board members, so. I don't know. We did this before, right? It's hard because I can't see these three. So why don't we do it?
Over here?
Yes.
Probably your second home of late, right?
Feeling familiar.
These feel like all my siblings.
Yeah, right.
And we all get along.
So far, we all get along.
All right. So the board has been in closed session for a presentation of the administrator and unaffiliated employment guides. This is for the 2021 to 2023 term. Is there a motion to approve these guides as presented?
I so move.
Moved by Andrea Keen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jackie Mosqueda Jones. All those in favor of approval of the administrator unaffiliated employment guides for 2021 to 2023, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ann Becker, Michelle Axel, May Hawkins, and your team members for all of your work. We appreciate it. Okay, we will move on to board chair report. Not much to talk about because we've kind of set up a lot. Just a reminder that our nominating committee members are Shannon Andreessen, Crystal Brackey, and Casey, Andrea Keen, and myself, Regina Neville. Please watch for an email to set up a date and time to talk. For board members who have terms expiring on December 31st, which includes Crystal Brackey, Andrea Keen, Ruthie Dallas, myself, Regina Neville, and Sam Sant. If any of you are aware that you may not be returning as the representative for 287, I ask that you please do let me know so that we can take that into consideration with our planning for next year. I would invite all board members to watch for correspondence inviting you to consider an officer position. That's what we'll be talking about for the calendar year of 2022. So a lot of good people around the table, and we just welcome that leadership. The tentative 2022 calendar for the board is part of the board packet. Sandy or Juanine, is there anything in particular you'd like to point out about the calendar?
I do know that typically the first meeting in January, Juanine always looks at the MSBA convention to see if it overlaps. It does overlap this year, but in light of needing some additional board time for various finance issues, we do. I did talk to Regina, and we are going to hold the meeting that night, even though it does overlap with the days of the MSBA convention. So just that is different than what we've done in recent years.
So the 13th.
Yes, correct.
Yep. Okay. And then, so just take a look at that, get some dates in your calendar up front. AMSD. Do we have a report for this evening? Yes.
I don't, I was sick, I didn't.
Oh,
I was
okay.
gonna say, do you want to do
Oh.
one final hurrah?
No. Okay. Okay.
I participated virtually. There was a presentation by a faculty member at St. Thomas that seemed extraordinarily engaging, talking a lot about racial equity and standards. And then there was further approval of a slate of legislative priorities for the coming year and conversation and continuing to hone the AMSD strategic plan. So the new strategic plan for AMSD is not yet finalized, but I think it's getting very close and might be in the next agenda or two.
Thank you. I'm grateful for our representatives. Ruthie and Ann, you've also have been still current AMSD reps.
I'm the alternate.
The alternate,
Same for me.
but alternates, that's still a representative. Thank you. Thank you.
I just would like to
Shannon.
quickly add that that speaker also spoke to the Reimagine Minnesota, which was crafted through AMSD, or is an initiative that AMSD promotes, and said that it's something that we should continue as educational leaders to follow, and it's pretty unique across the country. And so just to remind everyone that we have a really great document that's specific to our state. So
Thank you. Good addition. Are you also a rep?
I'm an alternate, but I get
Where else?
updated by Steve Adams. So
Okay, got it. No, thank you. That's all good material. Okay. Andrea, is it accurate that this is your last formal meeting?
You know, I think it is. Oh, no.
You are, now our tradition is board members who are rolling off are invited back to that organizational meeting. Some attend, some do not.
Okay.
I just don't want to lose that opportunity to thank you.
We're not going to give you a choice.
I was gonna say,
But I bring the new person with me, is that right? I bring the new.
You come, yeah, you bring your new rep. Please bring your new rep, but we're going to do a both and. Is there anyone else who is aware that they are rolling off? I'm not aware. Okay,
Oh, good.
Andrea, a round of applause. Just thank you for your service. You've been a great leader as a board member, as a vice chair, an AMSD rep, and engaged with our Resma Menachem Year of Learning. Lots of get on the buses, lots of graduations.
Well, it's an understatement for me to say that being on the 287 board has been one of the highlights of my board service. So I'm just really grateful.
Well, so are we.
Right.
Thank you.
What are you going to do with all that extra time?
I have no clue, Michelle.
Just gonna read.
I take volunteers in my classroom.
I think she has a plan for you.
Oh, with COVID, I'm kind of not sure what we're.
Sure, no.
You're
So-
gonna have to defend people.
Thank you. And Sandy reminded me, we usually do have a little celebration to recognize outgoing board members prior to that organizational meeting. And I'm a little off on the COVID versus what are we doing in person and what is the virtual cheer. So at any rate, please stay tuned. We can thank people more than once. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board this evening? All right, is there? Yes.
I forgot to mention this before about around the table, once around the
Oh, once
table.
you're on the table, absolutely.
But Brooklyn Center did start the Purple Room, and I think you've seen some announcements about it from the funder, the partner is backing that. And it's tied into the whole aspect of trauma, being trauma responsive. The students can go in this room and meditate and connect with another person or whatever. So I can bring more write-up on it.
Thank
I
you.
see
Please
other
do.
schools are picking up the concept. And so I would like to share with you the partner that's really promoting this. I think we were the first ones to present this concept,
Ruthie, what's it called again?
the Purple Room.
Purple Room. Okay.
Yeah.
Please do. Yes, if there's
will.
anything that you have electronically that could be shared,
I'll see what I can
if there
get.
is, or
Yeah.
bring material. Thank you. That sounds really good.
Right. And also I wanted to toot the district, and being one of the first clinics, pediatric clinics for COVID.
Mm.
So I think all of you heard about that. We were one of Governor Walz came out and really promoted the whole jump off of that. So
Well, congratulations,
Yeah,
Brooklyn
yeah.
Center.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that.
Thank you for
So-
doing that. Yeah.
I know
A
that's
shout
where I
out.
got my COVID shot.
Oh,
What is that?
I got my COVID shot in Brooklyn Center,
Oh, great.
leading the way.
absolutely.
Leading the way, she said.
Oh, okay.
Anything else once around the table?
I have a question
Yes.
for Ann Casey.
Okay.
Tomorrow, your superintendent is the keynote for something. Do you know what?
yeah.
Oh, do you know
No,
what?
Sandy.
Oh,
Sorry,
Sorry, I didn't mean to
I've been here
override
for
you.
like 2 months, right? I have no idea what's happening in my home district.
Well, I know one thing, maybe he's doing more than one, I don't know. Yeah, the NEEP is having their annual meeting and he's the keynote for that.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Whenever
That's why I
after
signed up,
dark.
because I know you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which
Send
one
him
can I say?
an
Thank you,
encouraging
Sandy.
text tonight.
Is there information that can be
Mini Eep?
Oh, sent out, if there is something, or Anne, if you come across something to share. Thank you.
I
That'd be-
have it. I think
You got it.
AMSD.
AMSD, okay.
We're gonna be presenting tomorrow at AMSD.
Huh.
Oh, yeah, we are.
On the
That's
school
right.
board call, right?
Yeah,
No
I'm
board
talking
member
about
call.
our LACs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, we should talk about
okay,
that.
everybody.
9 to 10?
Oh,
So busy.
that's at 7:30.
7:30 to 9.
Yeah, nobody
Is
wants
it
to come.
still virtual?
This one is.
Yes,
Yeah.
Zoom.
Okay,
You can come in your pajamas.
Right.
I say with experience.
all right, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ann Casey, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ruthie Dallas. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.